hire a lawyer to fight for something, why isn't it obvious to those who are attempting to separate that fighting is not the way to go? You shouldn't have to fight to gain custody of your children. They're your children. You shouldn't have to fight to decide which assets to lose. It should always be, how can I cooperate? How can we compromise? Or how can we solidify the future without losing everything we've worked for? The subject of today's program is all about a better way to separate divorce, and I have with me divorce mediator Jeff Bloom with me to help me through this conversation. Doesn't it seem obvious to you that you
Very obvious. Both you and I have been trying to get the word out, and the whole idea is to let people know that mediation is an option. And people still think that, oh, I'm getting divorced, I have to go to an attorney. And sometimes they think that because they don't know about mediation, or an attorney will tell them, oh, you have to fight, I'll get you what you want.
I've actually heard, oh, mediation's not legal.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
How many people have come up to you, or even me over the years, where were you 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Oh yeah, I've heard more of that.
We spent all our money, we depleted the kids' college funds.
You know, we don't hear enough about the successful ones. We're trying to work out a deal with a writer in Queens who has a lot of magazines and writes newspapers for Brooklyn and Queens. And after talking to her about what I do, I told her I was a divorce mediator, and she said, oh, I did that. It was great. So I said, that's what we need. That's the article I can write for you. This is what I can do for you, and this is what you can do for us by being a part of our board. She said, I'm with you 100%. So you can find people eventually that have gone through and mediated, and I'm finding more. I'm finding more and more as we go along through these years of the state trying to stop us from mediating, because the Democrats in control do not want to have mediation. They want legal.
And there are some states that we both know of that where mediation is mandatory. Florida, Tennessee, I think Connecticut, Jersey in some cases.
Connecticut with a caveat, Jersey. California mediates a lot of their divorces. Some other states, Minnesota, I think it is, has a preemptive mediation.
But here's a perfect example.
Oklahoma.
I was speaking to somebody in regards to the New York Supreme Court this week, where we're having a training for mediators in the court system and getting on a roster, And I spoke to the lady earlier today, or yesterday, and she said that, oh, you have to be an attorney to be a mediator with the court system.
Right, I know.
Well, that defeats the purpose.
Right.
I've been a mediator almost 5 years. Why not take, she said, I have no doubt of your experience, your expertise. I saw your website. You're known. I know you because I've heard about you. But you have to be an attorney. So you got the attorney mindset. The attorneys aren't trained to be mediators automatically.
Right.
They're trained to be advocates.
Now that you brought that up, let me tell you that the training for a lawyer is exactly opposite that of a mediator.
Absolutely.
So if a mediator is not going to cost you more money, what's the effective value comparative you're going to use? What's the threshold of where you want to pay more money for less expertise? Actually, that's what you're doing. When you're going to a lawyer, you're actually paying for less expertise in the solutions of the separation of your family and what to do going forward with your kids.
And in all fairness, unless that attorney went through mediation training, then it's different. But we both
Right.
know that our attorneys will hold themselves out as mediators just because they're an attorney.
Right.
Well, that's like me saying, brain surgery, I can do that. I could do that for less money.
Yeah, right. Of course.
I got the manual.
I have a knife.
Brain surgery for
I have a
dummies.
knife. Yeah, stuff that's like that. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's unfortunate only in New York. It's not unfortunate in other places. Like we just said, it's the trend that's heading towards the future. So we're in the beginning phases of this, and we'll not get rich this year, maybe necessarily, but before much longer, we'll be far more sought than like they are in other states. Absolutely. And the paperwork problem here in New York is extensive too. The legal work in New York is more extensive than it is other states. I had a chance to look at what other states do, and they'll have 8 pages in a divorce, legal pages, 8 legal pages in a divorce. 6. One state had 6. You only need 6. Wow. Uncontested divorce, 6 pages. You don't have to go through all those
and one of the things
legal notices
that my mediation services offers is I have the ability in the forums to do the paperwork in all 50 states right now. So where I do online dispute resolution. So people don't even have to be in New York. They be in Ohio, North Carolina, Louisiana. So I have all that access, and I noticed that, some of them are just so easy and less intrusive than New York.
Right. And that's the more lawyers you have, the more reasons you have to perform law so that they can make more money in places that you don't know. That's how it works.
And what do you do? And how many times does somebody call you, Chris, and what is your answer when they say, well, I just spoke to someone and I was told that a mediator has to be an attorney?
Right. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like I said to you a little while ago, what I say when people say that is that lawyers are going to have less expertise in your family than I will. Is that the choice you want to make? Do you want to pay more money for this expertise that's going to cost you more and you're going to get less value out of it? Is that how you make your decisions in life?
But not only that, but what I tell them is an attorney who is acting as a mediator can't give legal advice. They can't represent one side.
If they should fall out and go to court, they can't become a representative, right?
Not only that, but when I do the paperwork and file it in the court for the couple, they're signing it pro se, so nobody's being represented.
Right.
And what some attorneys do is, okay, the mediation's over, so Chris, you're the plaintiff, and I just mediated you and your wife, so it's okay, I'm going to, just for the paperwork portion, I'm going to represent you and file it in court.
Yeah.
And you say yes. I mean, that's a conflict of interest.
Some people do that, I know.
Right, they do that, and that just, now you're not a mediator anymore. What happens if that becomes contested? Then what do you do?
Right,
You can't do that.
you're stuck in a place where you're contesting something that was uncontested.
Absolutely.
Why would anybody go to court, for instance, or subject themselves to loss of income and high retainers and things that are like that?
I think the main reason is people don't know that there's any other option. I think that's one of the main reasons. The other one is there are some cases that you need to go to litigation. You know, let's say you have a domestic violence or somebody who has power over the other couple. I mean, everything's not right, not 100%. Mediation, maybe not in all cases, maybe not litigation. People should be educated and know
Right.
their options.
Right.
But in a case where, let's just say there's a domestic violence, whether it's mental or physical, and it may not appear in a mediation, but if one is afraid of the other, they might just agree to everything just to get it over with, and that's not fair.
I always think that the power advantages exist in almost all relationships, and that an appearance of a perception of power that I read into a couple's having one side being dominated by the other, I neutralize. The mediation naturally neutralizes things. So you don't have to advance the power aspect. You can query the power, or say every time that the powered person makes a statement, is that a statement that works for you and your position, transfer it over to the lady. That's one time you can intercede as a mediator when there's an appearance of a power struggle.
And again,
I find
it depends
eliminated.
on the level, right? It depends on the level. There's always that danger, and you want to be aware of that as a mediator.
I mean, you know, I went through extensive domestic violence training. I mean, maybe 10 different courses at 10 different places, and I've only had one case in 14 years now of doing mediation. One case that I thought maybe had domestic violence. There are others that may have existed but didn't know, but they got divorced quietly and simply anyway, and how would I know? You're supposed to be able to see that right away. If nobody gives you any signs, how would you see it?
Well,
Would you be searching for something that's not there?
Well, don't forget there are different forms of domestic violence. Doesn't always mean it's physical. It could be a mental
Well, I
thing
said
also.
the power thing is one of the things I recall.
Now on my intake sheet, you have the same thing. There's a spot for either one of them to write something that they'd like to let me know, but
Right.
don't want the other side to know. And again,
Right.
that's not foolproof either, right? They could be afraid. They could say, no, there's no domestic violence, everything's fine.
I had
But
one
if
that did that. I'm afraid to say anything that he will be upset about. Was one of the comments. It was a long time ago. I got that couple through. They were divorced, and he was upset. And I sensed that there might have been some domestic violence, but neither one of them would. It was a very quiet mediation, but it was efficiently done in 3 sessions.
But even that, if me or you sense something like that that wasn't already disclosed, then we have the caucus option, right?
Right.
Where we meet with each party separately for the same amount of time and let them know, listen, whatever we discuss here is between me and you unless you give me permission to share it in mediation.
Right.
So we have that out or helping us get to
That's
some of the
extremely
underlying
helpful. They
issues
did
might
that
not
in
come
this
out.
particular case, too.
I try not to use it on a regular basis, but it's very effective if you have to.
Sure. You might. And some people are also reluctant to share in a way when they weren't sharing in their marriage. So their sense of what's fair is a little bit distorted. They don't even recognize sometimes that they're taking a subservient position. They don't give themselves an opportunity to express their own, place of being.
Absolutely.
So they back away from that. So that happens. Now we are part of a 501c3. I'd like you to tell the people about it.
It's a nonprofit I started about 2 years ago. The website is limediationsociety.org. And what I wanted to do was have some type of community center where people can come in and resolve issues who can't afford it normally. Low income, we have some pro bono services, maybe not just family and divorce, maybe it's job skills, maybe it's employer-employee, somebody's wrongfully terminated. We could have leadership trainings. I mean, it's an actual real community center that people who don't have access to this on a normal basis would be able to come to the center
Well,
and either be free or low cost based on their income.
You should mention that we started at the same time, but slightly different. Or you said you started the Society of Long Island. Mine was a Family Resource Center.
Right.
Incorporated in this combined effort that we're making are the two different factions underneath one umbrella.
Correct. What
So
we're
the
doing is
Family
we're
Resource
combining-
Center focuses on the mediation of families and on the resources that they could use and utilize to help the families go forward. That's where, and including the low-cost effort. I didn't include the other aspects which your umbrella is
And
taking.
because we have like ideas, but where the Family Resource Center is some of the same issues and ideas that we have, but you have that extra added component of lobbying and maybe getting some of the laws changed.
And also for leaving the door open for reconciliation, which there isn't, I figured any plan that you put in to make change happen or to have a solution needs some kind of recuperative aspect to see whether it's possible to recuperate or to reconcile or get back together a couple that may not be not be able to see the forest through the trees, and therefore not be able to stop themselves from getting divorced. Whereas with a reconciliatory message being given early on, at least the couple feels that's possible. Maybe we should just let the steam blow off rather than run like a freight train towards divorce. And my process has that in it.
And don't forget that we would have the option of helping people. It's funny, in criminal court, you get appointed an attorney for free. In family court, you don't, right? They don't offer that. So maybe somebody comes in the center and they need that kind of help, or they need to talk to an attorney or a mediator or help with the process of paperwork. We'd be able to do that for them.
Yeah, and the Family Resource Center that I have been talking about is, hopefully this fits in with yours, with something we didn't talk about, really is the ability to exchange ideas midstream, so that if not only can it be reconciliatory, but if mediators are having difficulty in a financial aspect, we can call in a forensic who gets a per diem pay rather than somebody who's attached politically to either of the attorneys in a court or to the judge in a court. There's no attachment, so the neutrality is far broader in scope in a Family Resource Center than it would be in a court.
Right. And one of the things you talked about was, what if we had an attorney on staff, what would that attorney do, he or she? Because we're restricted, like we said earlier, about New York and how it's so litigation friendly, and then we might have a choice, and that person may need an attorney. We need to have those type of services available so we can help that person.
Right.
If it gets to that point.
So let's talk a little bit about, before we leave, before we break up the show, we have about 4 minutes left. What we can do, what the public can do by hearing the message we're delivering today, and what do they have to look forward to in terms of possibly assisting us get the legislative effort we need?
Well, we're always looking for funds, donations, and right now we're in the process of, we have the tax ID, we're approved by the state of New York, we have the educational component, and right now we're trying to get, as you know, the 501c3 filed. So that costs money also. So right now we're in a fundraiser trying to get the funds to get to the accountant to file a 501c3.
And even in the future, a person can donate even if we have the 501c3 because they get the tax benefit from
Absolutely. So right now we're in March of 2016. If we get the paperwork and everything over to the accountant, let's say by April of this year, then by the end of the year, we get the approval, and any donations given towards this, it will be tax deductible.
In the same tax year, right?
The same tax year.
In the same tax year. We have a website that you should mention.
The website is limediationsociety.org. You can also call for more information or make a donation at 516-308-7808.
Or 631-421-8188. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you.